A few years ago, David walked into his father's house and saw something he never forgot. His father had just retired at 63. He was sitting at the kitchen table with a calculator and a notebook. He had opened his brokerage app on his phone. The number on the screen was the result of 30 years of saving, and his father was doing quiet math, dividing that number by the bills he had every month. The answer was much smaller than he had ever expected. That moment, the gap between what David's father saved and what it actually paid him, is what this video is about. David's father had done everything right. He bought VOO, he held it for decades, he let the market compound, and he still ended up at a kitchen table with a calculator, realizing the fund he had used to build his nest egg was never built to pay him. The only way to get income out of it was to start selling it, piece by piece, share by share. David was 42 years old when he watched that happen, and he decided right then that his retirement would not look like his father's. In the next 15 minutes, I will show you the plan David built, a portfolio made of 5 specific funds, each one doing a job no other fund can do. And I will show you how $10 a day invested into that exact stack projects out to a $669,000 account, paying over $5,000 a month without ever selling a single share. The part most people miss is that this isn't about beating the market, it's about replacing your paycheck. Those are 2 completely different jobs, and once you understand the difference, you will never look at your portfolio the same way again. Quick note, I'm not a financial advisor or government employee. Everything here is for educational purposes only. For your specific situation, always check with a qualified professional. Meet David and the number that changes everything. So let me tell you more about who David actually is. He lives outside Cleveland, Ohio. He makes around $58,000 a year working as a regional sales rep. He's married, has a 12-year-old daughter, and he has been putting money into his 401k since he was 25. David is not rich. He is not a finance guy. He is the guy you would run into at a hardware store on a Saturday morning. But 2 years ago, David asked a different question than most people ask. Most people ask, how do I get rich? David asked, how do I replace my paycheck? Those are 2 completely different questions. Getting rich is about a big number on a screen. Replacing your paycheck is about money showing up in your account every single month, whether you go to work or not. David sat down with a notepad and figured out his number, $5,000 a month. That was the income he would need on top of Social Security to live the life he wanted without ever needing a job again. Then he ran the projection, $10 a day, $3,665 a year, reinvested into the right portfolio for 30 years. The number that came back, $669,000, paying over $5,230 a month, every single month for the rest of his life. But before David picked a single fund, he had to walk around the trap that catches almost everyone trying to do this. And the trap is hidden inside the most popular fund in America. Why VOO will never replace your paycheck. You have probably heard the advice 1,000 times. Buy VOO, hold it forever, let the market compound. That advice isn't wrong. VOO is one of the best growth funds ever built, but it has one fatal flaw if your goal is income. The dividend yield on VOO right now is about 1.05%. Let me put that in real numbers. If you saved up $500,000 in VOO, which most Americans never even reach, that portfolio pays you about $437 a month in actual dividends. If you somehow got to $1 million in VOO, that's about $875 a month. That's not a paycheck, that's a phone bill. So how do most retirees actually live off VOO? They start selling shares. That's what the famous 4% rule really is, a withdrawal rule, not an income rule. Roughly 3/4 of every check you take from VOO is you selling your own shares back to the market. Here is where it gets dangerous. Look at what happened from the year 2000 to the end of 2009. If you put $100,000 into the S&P 500 on New Year's Day 2000, 10 years later, without taking a single dollar out, you had $90,934. The market went backwards for an entire decade. Now imagine being retired during that decade, selling shares every single month to pay the mortgage. Every share you sold during a downturn was a share you could not ride back up when the market finally recovered. That's called sequence of returns risk, and it is the single biggest reason retirees run out of money in retirement. Here is the myth. VOO is the perfect retirement fund. High returns, low cost, set it and forget it. Here's the truth. VOO is a wealth-building machine. It was never designed to pay you. The moment you start selling shares for income, you are playing a completely different game. And in any decade where the market doesn't cooperate, that game is rigged against you. So if VOO can't do the job, what can? David found his answer in 5 very different funds, and each one does something the others cannot. The 5 ETF paycheck stack. David's portfolio is built from 5 funds. Each one has one specific job. Together, they form a stack that pays him every single month of the year. The first fund is BND. That stands for the Vanguard Total Bond Market ETF. This is the floor of the portfolio. BND owns over 17,000 different bonds, treasuries, corporate bonds, mortgage bonds, all wrapped into one fund. A bond is just a loan. When you own BND, you are lending money to the United States government and to American companies, and they pay you interest every single month. BND yields about 3.95% right now and pays on the first business day of every month. When the stock market crashes, bonds usually hold steady or go up. BND is the stabilizer that holds everything else together. Quick pause. Drop a comment right now and tell me, are you closer to retirement than David or further out? Maybe you were already retired and trying to fix the plan you already have. Either way, I want to know where you are in this journey. I read every single comment. The second fund is SCHD. That is the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. This is the growth engine of the portfolio. SCHD holds about 100 of the highest quality dividend-paying companies in America, names like Coca-Cola, AbbVie, Texas Instruments, and Chevron. Every single company in SCHD has raised their dividend for at least 10 straight years. SCHD yields about 3.32% right now and pays quarterly. But the real magic of SCHD isn't the yield, it's the growth. The dividend itself has been growing at roughly 10% a year. That means the check SCHD pays you in 10 years will be more than double the check it pays you today, and in 20 years, more than 4 times. The third fund is IXUS. That is the iShares Core International Stock ETF. This is the insurance policy. IXUS owns over 4,000 companies from outside the United States, Europe, Japan, India, Brazil, everywhere. Why does this matter? Because America does not always win. From 2000 to 2009, while the S&P 500 went backwards, international stocks made money. IXUS yields about 2.87% right now and protects you against the chance that America has another bad decade. The fourth fund is GQRE. That is the FlexShares Global Quality Real Estate Fund. This is the rent check of the portfolio. GQRE owns shares of real estate companies all over the world: apartment buildings, warehouses, cell towers, hospitals, data centers. By law, these companies have to pay out at least 90% of their profits to shareholders. That's why GQRE yields about 4.29%, and real estate income behaves differently from stock income. When the stock market drops, people still pay rent, businesses still pay rent. GQRE pays you quarterly, and it gives you exposure to income that does not move with the market. The fifth fund is JEPI. That is the JP Morgan Equity Premium Income ETF. This is the heavy lifter. JEPI yields about 8.46%, more than 4 times what VOO pays, and it pays every single month. How does it yield so much? JEPI owns a basket of large US stocks, similar to what's in the S&P 500, but on top of just owning those stocks, JEPI sells stock market insurance contracts called covered calls. The premium from selling those contracts gets passed back to you as monthly income. The trade-off is that JEPI gives up some of the upside in a raging bull market, but for income, it's one of the most powerful funds ever built. 5 funds, 5 jobs, 1 paycheck. When you split David's money evenly across all 5, 20% in each, the blended yield works out to about 4.58%. That's more than 4 times what VOO pays. And because BND and JEPI both pay monthly, while SCHD, IXUS, and GQRE pay quarterly, David collects a dividend almost every single week of the year. Now we have the funds. The next question is how $10 a day actually becomes $669,000. And there are 3 things in that math that almost nobody talks about.
How $10 a day becomes $669,000.
$10 a day equals $3,650 a year. That is $304 a month, about the price of a basic car insurance bill. Here is what that looks like over time when it is invested into David's 5-fund stack with every single dividend reinvested. At the end of year 5, David has put in $18,250 of his own money. The account is worth about $25,500. It is paying him roughly $104 a month in dividends. Small, but it has started. At year 10, his total contributions are $36,500. The account is worth around $66,000. The monthly dividend check is now about $300. At year 15, his contributions are $54,750. The account is at $130,000. The monthly check is up to about $685. At year 20, his contributions are $73,000. The account is worth roughly $240,000. The monthly check is now $1,460. At year 25, contributions are $91,250. The account is at $420,000. Monthly check, $2,960. And at year 30, David has contributed a total of $109,500 out of his own pocket. The account is projected at $669,187, and the monthly dividend check is $5,230, paid every single month for the rest of his life without ever selling a share. How does $109,000 of contributions turn into $669,000? 3 things. Reinvested dividends buying more shares every single month, the companies inside SCHD raising their dividends about 10% a year, and the share prices themselves drifting up slowly over time. Stacked together for 30 years, that is the snowball. Now, let me be honest with you. This math assumes 30 consistent years of contributions. It assumes the yields hold roughly steady. It assumes you do not panic sell during a bad year. Life happens, jobs change, markets do strange things, but the mechanism is real. The math is internally consistent, and it works whether you start with $10 a day or $20 or $50. One more thing, where you hold each fund matters almost as much as which funds you pick. JEPI and GQRE belong inside a Roth IRA. Their income is taxed as ordinary income, and a Roth shelters that completely. SCHD and IXUS belong in a regular taxable brokerage account, where their qualified dividends can be taxed at 0% for many retirees in 2026. BND fits well inside a traditional IRA. Getting the placement right can save you tens of thousands of dollars over the life of this portfolio. $5,230 a month for life sounds like the finish line of this story, but it is actually the beginning of something else. The real reason this works. The 5-fund stack is not just about the money, it's about not having to check the market to feel safe. On the first business day of every month, BND pays. A few days later, JEPI pays. Then once a quarter, SCHD pays, then IXUS, then GQRE. The checks just keep landing. Whether the market crashes 30% or rallies 30%, the dividends arrive. That's the freedom. Now stack David's $5,230 monthly dividend check on top of the average Social Security benefit in 2026, which is $2,071 a month. Together, that is $7,301 every month. The median full-time worker in America earns about $5,350 a month before tax. David's retirement income exceeds the paycheck he replaced. He does not have to unretire. He does not have to sell anything in a crash. He does not have to fear the number running out. That's the real reason this works. Not because the math is fancy, because the income comes whether you watch it or not. So here's the line I want you to write down or screenshot if you remember nothing else from this video. A big number you're afraid to spend is not wealth. A paycheck that shows up every month is. If you know someone still trying to retire on VOO alone, share this video with them right now. It could save them from building the wrong plan for the wrong job. Drop a comment and tell me, out of the 5 funds we covered today, which one are you adding first? BND, SCHD, IXUS, GQRE, or JEPI? I read every single comment, and I'm genuinely curious which one resonates with you. If you're building retirement income and want to stay ahead of the changes that affect your check every month, subscribe to Golden Goals. I cover everything that protects your income. And next, I'm breaking down exactly which of these 5 funds belongs in your Roth IRA versus your taxable account, because the wrong placement can save you $30,000 over the life of this portfolio. That video is on screen right now.